Hello and welcome to the Radical Podcast, inspired by the essence of the word radical, proceeding from the root. We explore the roots of metaphysical wisdom.
This season is all about divination, tarot, and the power held within our intuition. This is The Radical with Nicole and Christina, the two metaphysical girls in the material world. Hello and welcome to The Radical. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Christina.
Today's episode, the tarot cards from the Minor Arcana, the 5, 6, and 7 of Wands.
Can I tell you something funny? When I was eating my lunch, I was not in my office area. I was in another room and I was like, oh, well, let me just read a little bit about the cards. Let me just do an open source search. And I was reading about the 5 of Swords for a good few minutes before I realized that I was reading about swords and not wands.
That episode will come, but it's not today.
Well, you can ask me any questions about it and I'll be able to answer. But yeah, it was funny. Sometimes the two that I would easily mix up are wands and swords.
I can see that. So being that we are in Leo season, these are the 3 minor arcana cards that correspond with Leo. We'll talk about why that is more so in the second segment, but Christina has her list for us in the first segment. And then today, our messages from the universe are from postcards from the liminal space.
I'm going to jump right in to my list. I'm going to start with the name, the card name. And generally, most tarot decks have the number and then the representation of the suit. So 5 of Wands, 6 of Wands, 7 of Wands. Depending on your deck, the author may have used a different name in place of Wands. And only one of my decks has no number and no element. They're just like compassion. They're just one word. But she does have in her book how it corresponds to the traditional tarot. So that's how you may see these cards named. Number and suit. To talk about the card number just for a moment, we're not going to do a deep dive into numerology, but I had a sheet from some course I took and just the basic 1 through 10, what those numbers mean. And I'm sure you've seen this before, Nicole. I'm sure listeners, you've seen this before, but I'm just going to cover it very briefly just so we can have it fresh in our mind. 5 generally is adversity, instability, and challenges. And the 5s and the 4 suits all have that theme. 6 is growth, harmony, and improvement. 7, faith, potential, and ambition. So that's just to kind of get us into that frame of mind for those numbers. The element for these cards is fixed fire. Fire, passionate, enthusiastic, temperamental, and spontaneous. If anybody knows any Leos in their lives, they know that. And fixed, resistant to change, determined, great willpower, stable and reliable, but inflexible. And those attributes do echo in the cards that we're going to be covering. Zodiac sign Leo, said that already. And the planets associated with these 3 cards. 5 of Wands is Saturn in Leo. And just a quick revisit of Saturn, discipline, lessons, and destiny. 6 of Wands is Jupiter in Leo. Jupiter, expansion, luck, and growth. 7 of Wands, Mars in Leo. And that's Mars is drive and assertiveness. We just remember this when we're getting deeper into card comparison and we're getting deeper into card meanings, that there are echoes of these attributes from the planets in the cards. The house is the fifth house. Because it's the house for Leo, and that's the house, the phrase or the mantra for this house is I will. And it's entertainment and creativity. I just read it's called the House of Pleasure. have you have you read that before?
I have.
All right, for the chakra, in my personal opinion, I think these cards have solar plexus chakra energy. What do you think, Nicole?
I think that fits, and we could probably even assign a chakra to each individual card.
But yeah.
I see some root with the 7 of Wands.
Yeah, with the placement of the feet and the grounding
Mm-hmm.
down.
Maybe crown chakra with the 6, since we see the figure on horseback wearing a crown of victory.
I was thinking a lot about Leo and fire and the story that these cards tell, and to me they relate very much in my opinion to your personal will and determination. And for me that's the solar plexus. But tell us what you think, listeners. There's lots of ways to look at the energy of these cards. For symbols, themes, and history, the wands themselves can be well can be called clubs, staves, batons. Classically, they were related to the class of artisans. And you can see how it would be covered in creativity and goals and ambitions. Talk more about that in a second. And the symbols and like the imagery in the Five of Wands to me is a lot of action, a lot of movement, and a lot of like jumbled. And
Mm-hmm.
that card is it's designed to make us feel that way when we look at it. Generally, the Six of Wands,
Flashing.
yes, strife, friction, all of those things. So that is the overall symbol and theme of that card. The Six of Wands, and Nicole mentioned it, the crown of laurels, that sometimes the figure on the horse is wearing it, sometimes the horse has got it around its neck, sometimes the person is just wearing it and they're sitting on the ground. But there tends to be a lot of the symbology of crowning, which will makes it which makes us think of victory, which makes us think of triumph. And the figure up on the horse, or up, lifted, rising. In one of my decks, it's a butterfly moving upwards. That is another theme for the Six of Wands. And then Seven of Wands, my cards have like matchsticks. So it's like fire, sparks, something that is being ignited out of the chaos, or being ignited in the middle of something or around something. But those are kind of what I picked out for symbols that I saw in a lot of the cards and the decks that I looked at. Going back to themes, so this is the Suit of Wands. It relates to instinct, travel, communication, spirituality, inspiration, and creativity, because it can be seen as our soul, our inner fire, our will. The mantra could be, I desire. And that is where that fits in with ambitions and goals. That is the theme of this suit and, well, all the cards in this suit, but specifically, I think these 3 fixed cards right in the middle is almost like it's like a story, and it's a building of the story, and because it's 5, 6, and 7, it's the middle, and this is generally where the strife would come in. This is where there's turning points. This is where that Saturn in Leo is, where there's lessons in discipline. And then I have one note about history. The wands used to be called the suit of batons, And it was derived from the Chinese money-suited cards, and it was called a string of cash coins. When other people from different countries saw this, they initially, they being the interaction with the Muslim community, thought they were polo sticks. And some of the very oldest decks that came into Europe through the southern routes, uh, polo sticks were the suit on those cards. They were playing
Mm.
cards. But when the cards really started to spread throughout Europe, there's not a large polo community in Europe at that time. And that's when it became a stave or a baton. But it became a wooden implement, a wooden device. And generally, you could see how it's not a sword, you know what I mean? And it's not a cup. It's a wooden device, which is something that's natural, but it's not something that is used to kill or maim. It's more about a way for you to move forward and to use that as an implement of your desires and your goals. And that kind of made sense to me, but it has a fun history to it. And I want to make a note during the strength card episode, if you guys listened to that already, I misspoke and I was calling the classic Rider Waite Smith deck something else. I think I combined two names. I completely omitted Smith off of it, but I want to make a note here that Rider was the publisher, Waite was the author, and Smith was the illustrator. And this classic deck, which became one of the most iconic decks in Western culture, it could be called any combination of those three names. I don't want to leave off the name Smith because I connect very deeply with the illustrations and the symbology that she put into her illustrations. So I feel so bad that I left Smith off of when I was talking about this deck the other day. So Rider Waite Smith is the full name of that deck. And it can be called Waite Smith, Rider Waite, and even RWS.
I may have said Raider White Smith during the strength podcast.
I
I can't
know.
remember. So if I misspoke, that was my bad also.
Yeah. And I think it's done because I've seen it in many different places, and then you begin not to actually read what it says anymore. You're just like, oh, it's the Rider White deck, I think is what I was calling it. But I wanted to make a note that both me and Nicole are going to do our best to not to say the names correctly. But I do not want to leave off Smith because the illustrations are one of the key components of how I today relate to that deck. I very much get feelings and her symbology and use of colors and use of everything. But that is what I've got for right now in that little list.
So we will move into the astrological correspondences of these cards, specifically what are called the decans.
Mm-hmm.
Decans were completely brand new to me when we started this season. Decans are 10-day periods and 10-degree increments of the 360-degree zodiac wheel. There are 36 increments and 36 minor arcana cards. Works out pretty nicely.
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, there's one minor arcana card per 10-day period and 10-degree increment. The decans begin at the spring equinox with Aries 1, which is the Two of Wands card, and it concludes with Pisces 3, the Ten of Cups. Each zodiac sign breaks into 3 decans because each zodiac sign occupies 30 degrees of the 360-degree zodiac wheel. Each decan has a traditional planetary ruler. So Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are not part of this decan framework.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that the planetary ruler is assigned could vary depending on the framework being used by the tarot reader or the astrologer, but the book I'm reading and what is typically used in Western astrology is the descending framework, which orders the planets based on apparent orbital speed from Earth: Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon. Oddly, and because of how the math just works out, Aries 1, or the Two of Wands tarot card, the planetary ruler is Mars, and Pisces 3, the Ten of Cups, also has Mars as the planetary ruler. So it sort of begins and ends
Mm-hmm.
with Mars. And again, that's kind of just how the math, how it works out.
I think the math is pretty tidy. I mean, it is a beautiful system to me now that you have said it's 30 degrees, 360, there's 36 cards. Like it's perfect. Even if it doesn't, even if the planets sometimes seem like, why is that there? There's a reason. We just have to dig a little deeper and find out.
Yeah, it's really all math based.
Mm-hmm.
So, with all that being said, each decan has a minor arcana card, a zodiac sign, the zodiac signs corresponding major arcana card, a planetary ruler, and the planetary ruler's corresponding major arcana card. According to T. Susan Chang, in tarot, the magical history of the decans comes to us through the card correspondences assigned by the English magical society known as the Golden Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
Been hearing about those guys a lot.
Yeah. They
The
keep coming
Golden,
up in all my research.
yeah. The Golden Dawn pulled from the Kabbalah, the I Ching, and many, 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 many other traditions to sort of assimilate and put together all these meanings and correspondences. Chang goes on to say the Golden Dawn used the decanic correspondences to inform their interpretation of the tarot, specifically of the 9 minor arcana cards numbered 2 through 10 in each of the 4 suits. These choices saturated the images of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which was created by Golden Dawn member and artist Pamela Coleman Smith,
Mm-hmm.
and informed by the direction of the Golden Dawn's Arthur Edward Waite. Each exact decan date range will shift slightly year to year, just like the start date of Leo season, Virgo season, and so on might be the 22nd, it might be the 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
Really, what we're looking for is the sun at 0 degrees of Leo, 10 degrees of Leo, 20 degrees of Leo. You're looking for those increments of the sun traveling through the zodiac sign. So the Five of Wands also has a hermetic title based on the book I'm reading is using Aleister Crowley's hermetic
Yeah.
title. He's the Thoth guy, I
Yep.
think.
Yep.
The Five of Wands is also called the Lord of Strife. Zodiac sign Leo 1. Decan timing starting around July 22nd. Corresponding zodiac major. Strength because of Leo. The planetary ruler of this card, Saturn, and it's important, I think, to remember Saturn is in its detriment in Leo. And because of Saturn, we have the world as the corresponding planetary major. Six of Wands, the Lord of Victory for Leo 2, starting around August 2nd. We stay with the Strength card as the corresponding zodiac Major Arcana card. The planetary ruler is Jupiter, and the corresponding planetary major card is the Wheel of Fortune. The Seven of Wands is called the Lord of Valor, Leo 3, starting around August 12th. Strength, Mars rules this decan, and the corresponding Major Arcana card for Mars is the Tower. So when I think about the zodiac sign and the planet for the Five of Wands, I think of the heat of Leo and the constraints of Saturn. And these two together give us this meaning or this feeling of a pressure cooker, being under pressure, having, for example, a deadline at work. And this card can also mean that the results that we get from our effort may only come from being under pressure. Have you ever been in a situation like that where you're like, I have to get this done, and you work really fast and really hard, and what you end up producing may not have been the same if you had tons of time to work on it and you had a more lackadaisical approach? Another word that came up for the Five of Wands in my reading was a sense of rivalry. And I really liked that word because you hear like aggression, competition, rivalry is competition. But if we think about sports teams, like I went to UNC and Tar Heel basketball, every year we play Duke.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a sense of strife with the Five of Wands, but also striving. We are efforting, we are working, and again, that sense of pressure. With the Six of Wands, I think heart of Leo plus the blessings of Jupiter. Arthur Edward Waite, in his description of this card, said the Six of Wands can be thought of as the expectation crowned with its own desire. So, kind of wishes fulfilled. There's also a sense of public recognition, being seen, and creative expansion. Sort of that Leo fifth house meeting the expansive nature of Jupiter and also of radiance. Because of the Wheel of Fortune card that comes into play because of Jupiter ruling this decan, we can think of the Six of Wands being at the top of the Wheel of Fortune. And the Seven of Wands, fire of Leo plus the scattering of Mars. And this kind of calls in the energy of the Tower card. With the Seven of Wands, we're standing our ground with integrity. It is the heart's desire to do something valiant and honorable, timeless, undying. And again, I think of sports and rivalries of coaches talking to their teams in the locker room before they go out on the field and saying things like, today we become legends. It's that electrifying energy, which is the same energy of the lightning bolt in the Tower card.
Mm-hmm.
In more everyday terms, the Seven of Wands can represent effort, grit, perseverance, and determination. And with this card, it might be important to take a pause and consider, is what I'm fighting for worth it? Or is it time to let this go? And this again calls into the imagery of the Wheel of Fortune. Is it time to let this fall away? Or do I need to keep fighting for this? Is it really that important to me? Or should I just let the wheel turn?
The tower, you know how I said there's like a spark theme in the Seven of
Mm-hmm.
Wands? And
Mm-hmm.
that can totally be that tower, that lightning blast, that connection there to that card.
For sure. And this, the 5, 6, and 7, like Christina said earlier, it is a little story being told. It is a mini hero's journey.
Yeah.
I read that it's like a hero's journey of kingship or succession. And that I think speaks to just like the history of the cards. That doesn't really apply to our modern day lives, but it's this hero's journey of some kind of contention, a sense of victory, and then a struggle to maintain what we got in the Six of Wands. In my Mystic Mondays deck, the Five of Wands doesn't have any people in it. It's just 5 clashing wands. And to me, this is a more modern take of the strife being maybe more within ourselves in terms of brainstorming. I saw it phrased mental jousting
Mm-hmm.
and sort of the adrenaline that comes from working under pressure. The Six of Wands has a person with flowing hair. She looks very carefree. She's basking in the sun and she's being uplifted by 6 wands. And then moving into the 7, there's a person standing defensively, holding one wand sort of in front of her, going up against the 6 other wands, possibly from the previous card, and they've now turned against her. And in my antique anatomy, the suit is actually renamed rods, but she uses flowers with the rods. And in the 5, we have orange flowers. In the 6, yellow. And then in the 7, both colors of flowers are showing up together.
Nice.
So the orange in the 5 is orange means power, self-control, and courage. A little Saturnian there with the self-control. The yellow is expansive and joyful, very, very Jupiter. And in the 7, I sort of read that as can we bring those two together to help maintain in the 7?
When I was looking at my card comparison, the Spirit Song Tarot deck, my new one with the animals in it, the author has renamed the wands acorns, which
Aw.
totally makes sense. Acorns being a seed and sort of that has all the potential to grow into a tree. That was a nice fit for me, I feel like. The 5 of acorns, the animal that she has for that is the leopard. And in the card, the leopard is either yawning or roaring. But there is an element of action in that card. And the way the author said that the leopard is the great problem solver in the natural world. A leopard is one of my favorite animals, and I probably know more facts about leopards than I need to, but that so resonated with me in this card. And she also calls it challenge and growth. The 6 of acorns, they chose an elk, and you could see the way the elk is standing with the head raised with the antlers, Again, we're talking about that crowning at the head, and the antlers of the elk are its natural crown. I think a lot of times people who work with animal representation use horned animals for like kingly, regal, crowned, sometimes even enlightened messages. The elk here makes a lot of sense to me. They call it success and triumph. The seven of acorns is the badger, determination and stamina. The wild unknown tarot deck, this is the one. There's some animals in this one. There's a butterfly in one. There's like no. A lot of my decks don't have any humans. I'm starting to realize I don't have a lot of human representation on my decks. I have animals and nature. Isn't that funny? What we gravitate to.
Mm-hmm.
But the Five of Wands in the Wild Unknown Tarot deck is scattered, lack of focus. Six of Wands. This is the one where the butterfly is rising up. So again, with the seven, it's like uplifting. Or excuse me, the six of Wands, rising up, lifting up, and that Jupiter energy of growth and expansion. And the Seven of Wands, courage and inner strength, and there's that one lit wand in the middle, reminiscent of that Tower card that you
Mm-hmm.
can. I can see that now very clearly. Um, the Secrets of the Witch's Garden, Five of Wands. She used the phrase friction. Six of Wands, inspiration. Seven of Wands, I love this, soul fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Sacred She Tarot deck. This is the one where the author has reimagined so beautifully all of these cards into very modern day settings using modern day imagery. She calls five competition. And when we post these cards, you can see the kites are it's two figures flying kites, and the kites are crossed and battling. Six for triumph in this card is a female figure in a very modern day setting having confetti and things thrown at them, which I thought was an interesting take on that card because it has an element of public or other people recognizing you, other people
Mm-hmm.
giving you kudos. And some of the other cards have that, but not all the other cards have that. And in her interpretation, that to me is the main focus of that card. She is not throwing that confetti at herself. It is right. It is being thrown at her, and it's an interesting card. Interesting take on that. The one out of this trio of cards from the Sacred She Tarot deck, seven adaptability, is a little snow. I think it might be a little fox, and they are walking through a windstorm in the snow. And you know, like when little creatures have the wind blown at them and they make a little squinchy face because they're walking into
Mm-hmm.
the wind, and that's what the little creature is doing. I love that card. Everything about that card to me gives me that feeling of like pressing forward, of not giving up. Everything around you might seem bigger than you are, but you are meant to be going on this path in this direction at this time. It's so interesting how, out of this trio of cards from these four different decks that I have, individual ones in each of those stand out to me as, from where I am today, from my personal point of view today, which one represents the theme of that card best is different in each. I would have picked a card from each of the different decks and had like a completely different deck. But I think that's true. Nicole and I were just talking about this before we hit record, that we all have decks that we resonate with. The pictures, the illustrations, the author has written a beautiful guidebook. There's different reasons why we like different decks and different cards at different times. But even in a deck that I am truly vibing, there's a card or an interpretation that I do not vibe with.
Yeah, I only talked about two of my four decks today because when I was looking at them, like they were telling a story,
Mm-hmm.
two of them made sense to me. The third one makes sense, but it's not wildly different from the Rider Waite Smith deck. So I just kind of skipped over it because of like time considerations. But
Mm-hmm.
my fourth deck, my Medicine Woman deck, I can kind of see where she's coming from with the 5 and the 6 of pipes, but the 7 of pipes is really throwing me. I don't understand what the imagery is trying to convey, and her note in the guidebook, I think, only added to my personal confusion. And I will say that renaming the suit to pipes in the Medicine Woman deck threw me too,
Hmm.
because I was thinking pipes air.
Yeah. I guess there are wooden pipes, and if
Mm-hmm.
that author is connecting with the traditional Native American medicine, they definitely had wooden
Yes.
musical instruments, but I would not have personally. I just talked about how batons and staves are tools for implementing your will. Like it's like a walking stick. It's like an extension of your arm to use a bat or a stave or a baton. It's a way for you to find a further reach in what you're pursuing and what you're doing, and generally wood, but it doesn't have to be like a and even a magical wand. Do you know what I mean? Is still is wooden, and it's an extension of your will and your desire. In my head, a musical instrument isn't in that category, but you are using your will to create the sound, and that is your expression, right?
For sure. And I am definitely not being critical,
Yeah.
but it is one of those things where I think it's going to sit on my mind, particularly the 7 of pipes card, because I'm like, this just doesn't click in my head. Like, what is this trying to tell me? And maybe one day, and who knows like how far into the future, but maybe I'll draw this card from this deck and it'll make sense. But right now, it's it's a mystery to me.
There's this fun thing. I was taking a tarot class, and the instructor said sometimes you have to take a walk with the card. You have to pick the card and you have to carry it with you. And you have to meditate on the take a walk with it essentially, or put it in your bag or put it in your pocket and take it with you throughout the day to really get a sense of what that card is. And I think some of these cards I definitely need to take a walk with and really think about it and dig deeper into it. Those are the ones that we often say that if you have resistance to, are the ones that you need to focus more energy on, because what we resist persists. And there's some message there that you may need in that 7 of Pipes card in that deck. 7 of Pipes. Also, as I'm looking at my cards in the card comparison, you can see how the Rider Waite Smith deck has a progression and the characters move through the story, like when you do like the overall card comparison of all the wand cards or all the sword cards, that there's a story, like Nicole said, there's a hero's journey in each one. And some of my decks are not like that. Each one is unique and individual. The characters are different. There's no common themes. Some of them, there's no common colors. That's another thing to think about, listeners, as you're looking at your tarot decks. And the author may explain that in the way that they have written their books and the way that they've written their guidebooks. But also, it's just another way to interpret the cards all together or separately. But I'm just realizing that now, that not all of the cards are you know
It's
what I'm
not a
trying to say.
storyboard.
No, because I was just thinking, if you have a specific goal in mind, you could go get your 5, 6, and 7 of wands, take those cards out, and do a journaling exercise. You could take those out, put them up on your altar stand. Like, you could take those out and use them as inspiration, because these cards are designed to take you through that speed bump, to take you through that challenge. But if you have a deck like one of my decks, those cards aren't telling a story, but they would still work, I imagine. It's just another way to see a way to use the cards differently, not just for a reading, but also to take the card and use the energy and the symbolism and the attributes of that card to give you, or to take on that energy so that you can get to your goal. Another way of looking at them.
Speaking of another way to look at them, reversals.
Ah, reversals.
So the 5 of wands reversed, you could consider how competition makes you feel. Let that be a journaling exercise. You may need to call a truce and confront something head on versus avoiding it. The 6 of wands in reversed could indicate pessimism and low spirits, maybe an inability to receive praise and acknowledgement, or having to give ourselves praise and acknowledgement if other people are not throwing the confetti at us.
Mm-hmm.
And 7 of wands reversed could be trying to convey that what got you here, and here being the position of victory in the 6 of wands, is now actually overwhelming you and making you lose power. It's draining you. So it could be signaling things like you're trying to control too much, you're spreading yourself thin, you're saying yes to too many things, or overcommitting.
I have my questions. I'm not a big reversal reader. Generally, if I'm doing a reading for myself and a card is reversed, I just put it the right way, and I just move on with my reading. Reversals to me are, I like the questions. Like I said, one of my favorite decks has questions to write the reversal. And for the 5 of wands, the question to ask is, what is at stake for me? One of the interpretations of that card is that friction, that battle, is a farce, that it's not a real battle. It's really a competition for gold or for riches or for acclaim. If you find yourself in this place of friction, but you don't really, what we have to ask ourselves is, what am I fighting for? What is the goal of this battle that I'm in? What is at stake for me? Sometimes we have to step back and ask ourselves that. So the 6 of wands is, how can I inspire myself? You can have the confetti thrown at you, but here's the thing, that's not always where we all are. Sometimes we have to throw our own confetti. We have to inspire ourselves. If we're looking for someone to notice, or we're looking for someone to crown us, that might not be the reality. It might be us doing it for ourselves. How can I inspire myself? And for the 7 of wands, Where is my advantage? In the Rider Waite Smith deck, the proportions of the person holding the wand and the land that they're standing on is different. It looks like that person is a giant, and the wands or the clubs coming at that person are coming from below to above. Ideally, that might be the situation, is that you have all the information, you have all the facts, and you have the advantage. But here's the thing, you might not have any of those advantages. You might be in the dark, learning as you go, and completely in over your head. You got to step back and ask yourself, because you do have some information. Where is your advantage in that situation? And one of the decks that you have, Nicole, the one where the figure with the flaming red hair and legs wide and holding the baton, and the batons are coming at them, you don't know, there's nothing else in that picture, so only they know what they are holding on to and what they are fighting for. It's like, I don't need to see like, you don't need to convince anybody why you're standing your ground. You know what your advantage is, and then you go back to the 5. You're like, what's at stake for me? How can I inspire myself to get through this? And then where's my advantage in this battle, this fight, this strife, this friction? Because that is what these little trio of cards is kind of taking us through. So if you're perplexed when you see this card, those questions may help. Or resistant when you see the card.
After doing all this research, I definitely understand these cards better.
Yeah.
I don't really have a personal experience or a particularly strong connection with any of them at this time, but my birthday does fall within the Leo 1 decan, which is the 5 of Wands card. I have no idea if that like means anything, if that has any sort of like correspondence to, say, like a personality trait. I don't know, but I was working on my notes and I was like, this is my decan, the 5 of Wands.
Oh my gosh, I want to make a separate sheet, and I want to do my cards for all of my planets. So my sun sign, my moon sign, and my rising sign. I want to know the cards for all of those, because I think I know my sun sign, and I'd have to look at the dates for my moon sign, but I want to know all of them now, because I feel like these cards probably are themes at different points of our life. Are you looking up? I'm going to be sending you a note with some dates, Nicole, and you're going to have to send me back the decans and what card they are. And then I have to go, and then I'll go look up the cards, or send me the sheet. Or you know what? I guess I could also read the book that you have on this and figure it out for myself.
You have the decans on your cheat sheet.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think, and I just realized that in one of my books, it has the timing. In one of my books, it might even have the decans. I think I probably skipped over it because I didn't understand what it was. But in this book, it has number symbolism, astrology, and then it has timing, and it gives you the dates. Oh, it does. It says, anyway, I'm not going to say it because this is another card. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm being distracted by information, but that is fascinating. I want to know what my birth cards are. My sun card, my ascending card, and my moon card, right? Because it'd be associated with, depending on the date in each of those signs. And then you could do a reading with those cards.
Yeah. You could do it for your sun, your moon, and then Mercury through Saturn. You would have a corresponding decan.
So fascinating. Oh, thank you so much for taking the time to explain that to us, because I had a cheat sheet that had where the, like when I was saying in the beginning of the episode that um 5 of wands is Saturn and Leo. So I've been saying that, I've been tracking that, and I knew there was some math behind it, but it was Nicole, you were the one who discovered the decans and introduced me to them, and then put those pieces of information together, because I never looked up how Saturn in Leo was assigned to the 5 of wands. I just took it for what it was. I'm like, okay, that makes like I'm good. But it was you, Nicole, who was like, I'm gonna find out why that is.
About a month and a half ago, I think, I took my thrifted Rider Waite Smith deck and spread every card out on my dining room table. And I got out 4 colored Sharpies.
Oh, I love a project.
And I wrote, so for example, I'm holding the 5 of Wands in my hand, and an orange Sharpie around the border, I have Saturn, Leo, detriment, fixed. And
Oh,
because it's orange, I know it's a fire element.
I love that.
And then I pulled my birth chart tarot cards and laid them out.
Nice. All right.
So,
I have a project. I have a project. In my travel deck, I wrote down the symbols for the elements, the planets, and the symbol of the zodiac sign to reinforce the symbols every time I looked at the card. But I feel like I want a card that has more information on it, like what you did. I kind of want something like that. And I have two Rider Waite Smith decks. I have a primary and a second. I don't know why I have so. I mean, it doesn't matter why I have so many, but I have decks that have been set in a craft box that I'm not going to throw away, but I don't use them, and those could be the perfect candidate for making like my learning one, almost
yeah.
like we were saying the other day, almost like a flashcard one
Mm-hmm.
that reinforces more information when I look at it. What a good idea, Nicole.
So I have 3 cards from Postcards from the Liminal Space. And the first card is Interdependence. While convoluted human notions of love have cast transactional relationships as taboo, while lauding balanced exchanges as healthy, nature simplifies this for us. Not only are symbiotic relationships fundamental to any functioning ecosystem, they are effortless. All life is wired to perceive threats and gravitate to what will support it. Not everything is for you. What is yours will not miss you. The card looks very much like the compassion card from
Mm-hmm.
Christina's deck when we talked about strength
Strength. So that's
last
the
week.
the second crocodile we've seen in a short amount of time. So I
Mm-hmm.
wonder what that energy is trying to convey to us.
The second card, no one is coming for you. No one.
Sorry. I love that's sorry. That's such a theme of like recently. It's like no one's coming for you. You've got to save yourself. Sorry, go ahead.
No one can find you because you don't want to be found. No one is reaching for you because you are not reaching back, and no one can save you but yourself. This is not punishment, but rather permission to stop wasting energy on performative misery and focus instead on really helping yourself. You are stronger than you think.
Whoa. Performative misery. That card is let me see. Let me see it. That card is like, oh, have we had that one before? The spaceman one?
I don't know.
I don't know, but every time you use that postcard deck, it's like directed at me. When you read some of those things, I'm like, okay. I'm
The
listening.
the performative misery is giving me a
Whew.
little bit of Five of Wands vibes.
Mm-hmm.
The third card is a magician is only as good as their tools. The wheel was first used as a means of transportation around 3200 BC, and magic was alive and well long before that. Now there are cars, airplanes, rocket ships that can safely launch you into outer space. There is technology to connect us, infrastructure to support us, medication to balance us, and more information available than ever before to educate us, as well as the practices of the ancients. Examine your resources and expand if necessary. What are you using and how is it working? There is no wisdom in refusing a tool that will help you.
Love those cards.
I think next week is the sun, our final Leo tarot
The
episode.
sun.
So we will be back next week, listeners, with the sun. Until then,
Take
take
care. Be
care.
safe.
We love you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode. The Radical Podcast is created and produced by Nicole and Christina.
Music by Van Horton. His Instagram is Van Horton Music. Stay in touch with us at linktr.ee/theradicalpodnc.